Welcome to Simply Sarah. I'm Sarah Stockham, your host, and I am so pleased that you are carving out time for you. This conversation that we're going to have is really specifically about you and for you. And we want to say thank you to our sponsors for allowing this, making it, supporting this to happen, to the Stegner family, to the Art of Forgiving, the artist Michelle, also to KatieIngersoll.com. Just so much gratitude. And also for our guest today, Celeste Bonin. We're just so glad that you are here. And we're actually recording today, pre-recording on your birthday. And so you're just all shiny and bright. And you've just gotten back from a super empowering trip to Greece. I would love for you to share part of your story, part of your journey. How did you get to who you are, to where you are today, friend?
I just want to start by saying thank you so much for having me on. And this is such a beautiful grounding space to be in. It feels really, really, really nice to just to come on here and feel really welcomed with such a beautiful energy. So thank you. And gosh, so today's my 39th birthday. And
I would have never guessed that.
it's funny. I feel and I look younger in my 30s, my late 30s, than I ever did in my 20s. And so my career started kind of a crazy situation. I used to look at it like I was just in the right place at the right time. So when I was 23, I had been competing on the competitive bodybuilding stage for about 4 years, and fitness and sports were really my identity, and I found a lot of strength and resilience in that. And I had this opportunity to try out for the WWE, and at that time, I had started to feel that the bodybuilding stage was a little bit restrictive in terms of the vision that I had for my life. And I didn't quite know how to name that, but it felt very static. It felt like I didn't really get to exhibit this part of me. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but it kind of felt like it was a message or something from my heart. And so I had this opportunity to try out for the WWE, and I really felt like this was the thing for me that was going to help me make something really meaningful of my life. And I tried out, I got hired, and within a 3-week time frame, I moved from my home where I was born and raised, Houston, Texas, all the way to Tampa, Florida. Everything happened really fast. And I was so I think it's probably the same now as it was 14 years ago, 15 years ago. But when I was signed, I was brought on as a developmental talent. So that meant that I went to the developmental training center where I was still signed as an athlete by the WWE, but I was developmental. So I wasn't on television yet. And I was there to learn. And I was hired with zero experience. I had literally never been in a wrestling ring. I had never been on a grand stage. I had never really spoken into a microphone. So it was all very, very new to me, but I was hired because they saw something, a raw talent, something to be developed in me. And I was very athletic. And I was there for a few weeks. And at that time, WWE had an umbrella of shows, and it was Raw, Monday Night Raw, live episodic television. It's been on for 30 plus years, 30 something years. SmackDown, Friday Night SmackDown, and then they had a show called NXT, and it was a reality-based elimination show. And the first 2 seasons were all men. And so essentially they would bring up 6 rookies from the developmental program, and they would compete in all these different challenges, wrestling matches, and week by week they would get one athlete would get voted off and have to go back down to developmental. And the last man standing was guaranteed a contract on either Raw or SmackDown. So it was like a pretty big win.
Huge.
Yeah.
And changing. Yes.
Absolutely. It was why everyone was there. It was why everyone was at the developmental center for that spot. And there were other ways that you could get on television and become a main roster athlete, but this was kind of like that sure thing. And so they were gearing up, WWE was gearing up to launch season 3, and it was an all-female season. And at that time, the developmental center was really small. There was probably when I got hired on, I was the eighth girl. And so they were bringing up 6 out of the 8 women out of the developmental talent to go on the show. And it was set to air on live television on the Sci-Fi Network. And so they had also hired on someone from the independent wrestling circuit who was not a WWE talent, but they brought her in. She was not exaggerating. She was 6'8". This woman, her name was Lindsay Hayward, 6'8", and they brought her in as this huge attraction.
Sure.
A few days before the show went live, they let her go. WWE was rebranding, and something in her past didn't fit with their rebrand. They were going from like the Attitude Era to a more PG-13 family environment.
Yeah.
And so they let her go, and they called me. And I got a call from the headquarters in Connecticut, and they said, "You're up, kid." And literally, I had only been there 3 or 4 weeks, and I had never actually had a real wrestling match. I didn't have wrestling boots. I didn't have a character. I was just very, very green and just like a deer in headlights. And I answered the call. I got the news, and the first thing that happened is I started crying. It was like it was like a multi-dimensional feeling, because it was like,
Yeah.
on one hand, it was like, yes, this is literally everything I could ask for, all happening right now in this moment.
Yeah.
And I was also very afraid, because I felt very unprepared.
Mm.
Again, it was a whole new world. And here I am about to debut on live television, and never having wrestled a match in my life. And so I also didn't have any money at the time. I was bartending when I got hired. I was 23. And the developmental contracts didn't pay a ton of money.
Right.
And so I literally at the time didn't own a dress. I didn't own a skirt. I didn't have any Diva clothes. The women's division were called Divas back then. So I told them, I was like, I don't know what to wear. I don't have anything to wear. And so they told me to go back to the developmental center, to the school, and they gave me $1,000 petty cash from the safe. And they said, "Go buy Diva clothes."
Go figure it out.
Yeah, so I got, long story short, I ended up winning that season. I was this underdog character, and I wasn't even really a character. I was just me trying to show up, give everything I had, because it was this opportunity that I knew, even at that young age, I was not willing to let it pass me by. I was just going to give it everything I had, everything I had. And I have a lot of embarrassing moments that happened on live television. They live on YouTube forever now. But just embarrassing things. I didn't really have any skills at that time in the ring, and I was very new on a microphone. And I also didn't really know myself. I didn't really know myself. And then that led to an incredible 4-year career. Within the last year of my time with WWE, I held the women's championship title. And yeah, it was a really crazy series of events that led to it. Kind of that same energy of like right place, right time. Like I'm just the person that's like ready to have the opportunity. And then I ended up, so they would sign you for 3-year contracts at a time. So my first contract was 3 years. I was re-signed. And then after 1 year into my second contract, I had the title run, and then I started hitting a lot of roadblocks. Mental health, physical health. I was gaining a lot of weight. I was very emotionally balanced. I was essentially folding under the pressure of fame and just the lifestyle. I was on the road 5 or 6 days a week,
Right.
and it was very, very lonely. It was a very, very lonely life. And I also didn't have a lot of communication skills. I didn't have a lot of tools. I didn't know what being grounded meant. I didn't know how to be in my body, and I was constantly anxious. And it was really wild to experience this, but I felt more pressure backstage than I ever did on stage.
Right.
Just trying to be, the who I thought I had to be to be given these roles and this television recognition and these opportunities. So I essentially had a very, very difficult week, and I ended up asking for my release with 2 years left on my contract, because I didn't know what else to do. It felt like my time had run out there, and I couldn't ignore what was happening with my body and my mental health. And I was 27. And that was about 10 or 11 years ago. And in the past 10 or 11 years, I've been on this journey of healing, truly knowing myself, awakening to my spirit, finding my true calling in life, and really learning what it means to feel purpose in my life. Um, and so that brings us to kind of a long story short, but those are my humble beginnings. And I will say that, WWE was such a massive part of my life. And on a very deep level, it truly, truly developed my character as a person, not my television character, but just who I am, the resiliency I have. And I really learned what I was made of in that time frame of my life.
So incredible, Celeste. This is a perfect place for us to take a quick break for our sponsors. But when we come back, I would love for you to share how you navigated all of that to where you are today. We will be right back.
This is Michelle. She teaches women how to forgive the people who betrayed them, not by asking them to talk about it, but by helping them express it through art. She's an art therapist and the creator of the Art of Forgiving, a class that turns emotion into expression. No therapy jargon, no pressure to explain, because forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about setting yourself free. This is Michelle, and this is the Art of Forgiving.
Are you ready to enrich and deepen your relationship with the spirit world and increase your knowledge of the shamanic journey? Then this is for you. The first step of the shamanic journey is to discover your power animal. This process allows you to step into spirit's energetic field where they share their aspect of the divine's power. And as a result, you begin to realize the significance of their sacred power and what it means to you personally. Katie Ingersoll is a highly sought shamanic and Reiki teacher, a practitioner, a spiritual counselor, and educator. With grace, she integrates the rich teachings of the wise ancient ones into her workshops, encouraging her students to mesh these teachings into their everyday lives. For details of how you can discover your power animal, reach out to Katie at katieingersoll@gmail.com. Celeste, I am delighted to have this conversation with you because I know that there is more to your story. And I have been watching how you have been helping hundreds of people, primarily women, but hundreds of people radically change their conversation with their body and their internal conversation, that mental health space. And you don't shy away from the spiritual aspect of all of this. I would love for you to share that journey over the next 10-ish years or so after leaving WWE.
It's funny. I never considered myself a highly spiritual person. For a long time, in my early 20s, I was discovering being an adult and navigating the world. But when I was starting to understand that there was a lot of healing and transformation that needed to happen in my life after leaving my career with WWE. When I left, I didn't have a plan. I ended up leaving January 2014, and then I got married 6 months later. So I was engaged for a very short time to my first former husband. I've been married and divorced twice, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that, like I was saying previously, I felt like my time there was up and I wanted to do something else with my life. And I felt like I didn't know how to handle the pressure of what I was going through then. There was also things about the way, there was things about the culture within WWE at that time, especially within the women's division, that I didn't necessarily vibe with or agree with, but in my early 20s, I didn't understand how to be a leader. And I didn't understand how to shift a tide in the culture. And so there was just a lot of things backstage that I just struggled with. And so I felt like I didn't belong, like on a deep level. And so when I left, I had this huge identity crisis. Like, am I ever going to do anything as big as this ever again? And I really didn't feel like I knew who I was. Like I said, I jumped into this marriage right away. And I also, within that 6 months between leaving and getting married, I also started a business. When I was wrestling, I would have a seamstress sew this little elastic ruching in the seam of my pants, a little booty seam, and it would scrunch up the fabric, and it would just accentuate my rear, my derriere. And I was always looking for something to help me feel more confident on television. I struggled a lot with my body at that time, my body image, and feeling comfortable on camera, because I was one of the bigger, more muscular women on the roster. And so I took that idea, and I have this big fitness and athletic background, and I wanted to take that concept and put it into activewear, into women's leggings. And at that time, 2014, it was being done in women's competition swimsuits and just swimsuits in general. And so I took that idea, and I created a new legging design, and I called it the Booty Scrunch legging. And I launched a women's legging company called Celestial Bodies. And I officially launched that business the same week that I got married. And so I was on this mission to reinvent myself. I was on this mission to find this new purpose for my life, to find a new identity, to find success on my own terms. And I had never, I really didn't have any business experience, but my first husband was a business owner, and I did learn a lot of my foundations from him, and he helped me in a lot of ways. And that business took off. It took off. It was like the rise. It was when Instagram was really, really, it was easy to grow a really big following. And I also had this, I was on television. And so I was rising in popularity. My leggings were starting to become a fan favorite. And I started having a lot of success in business. And I had top women's bikini athletes from the IFBB, women's competitors wearing my brand. They were my athletes. And I started to feel this new sense of success. And it felt like it was really on my own terms, and I was learning about business. But behind the scenes, I was still struggling with everything that I was struggling with when I left the WWE. I hadn't really done anything with it. I had started to go to therapy during all of this. And I was also struggling a lot in my marriage. And so I had this outer success. I was in the same situation as I was. I was like a pattern that was happening. I had this outer success, looked like I was on top of the world. But internally, I was crumbling. I was suffering. And that was really, even then, I still didn't understand the level of healing that I needed to go through, the level of self-connection that I really needed to feel whole inside. So I ended up going through my first divorce after 3 years of marriage, getting my business, getting Celestial Bodies out of the divorce, rebranding it, making it my own. It was like a self-rebrand, and built myself up again. And at that time, my anxiety and these emotional issues, mental health issues, physical health issues were rising and rising and rising and rising. And I started having panic attacks. I started having uncontrollable anxiety. I was drinking. Even to a point where I was drinking on a daily basis, because I didn't know how else to quiet the thoughts that I was having. I didn't know how else to combat the anxiety that I was feeling. And again, I had overcome this divorce, had rebranded myself, rebranded my business, and I was still searching for something. I still needed something in my life. And my friend, one of my best friends, who actually tried out with me during my WWE tryout, she hated it. She went home the first day. To say this about like professional wrestling is like it's for a very specific kind of person. Like, she tried out the first thing, she's like, I'm going home. And I was like, I love it. She sent me a book, and I was still living in Florida at this time. And she sent me a book, and it was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I read that book, and I read it again and again and again and again. And I listened to it on audiobook. And every single time I read it or listened to it, I felt like it was unlocking something inside of me. It was giving me this permission to let my guard down and to detach from the voices in my head and the things that were causing such extreme anxiety for me.
Right.
Yeah, and so that was, I would say, kind of the beginning of a spiritual awakening for me, and an awakening to a self connection and a heart opening experience. And so that was in 2018, and I would say also 2018 was probably the hardest year of my life. I was my anxiety was at an all-time high. My hair was falling out. I was drinking every day just to cope. My relationships were falling apart. My mom had received a dementia diagnosis. It was just everything that could be happening in my life was happening. And so that book was like a godsend to me because it awakened me to something higher. It started to, I mentioned that I never really considered myself a spiritual person in the past. It started to awaken me to a spiritual path, a spiritual understanding. And around that time, I met my second husband, and we together moved to Houston. He moved back to Houston. I really wanted to move back to Texas. I was in Florida for 10 years. And around 2020, my clothing business started to fail. Social Body started to fail. And it was like this big ending again, just like I was facing with, the end of my career with WWE. And it was this big pattern. I kept noticing this pattern over and over and over again. And then I closed the doors to Celestial Body. It was very difficult. And again, I was at this point of like, who am I? And this big change in my identity. And my second husband and he was a coach at the time. He was doing fitness, mindset coaching. We started a coaching business. And I was, even towards the end of having my clothing business, I was awakening to these aspects of myself, that these aspects of myself were coming online. I was starting to open my heart. I was starting to soften. I was starting to work on these things that were really holding me back in my life from true joy and happiness and fulfillment. And during the time I was mentoring people, I was mentoring other people in the space that wanted to start a business, that wanted to be an influencer in social media. And so the transition into coaching felt kind of seamless. It was like, oh, I feel like I'm being led in this way. And so that was about 5 years ago. And since then, my second husband and I divorced. And after that, it was like this step into a whole new era and season of my life, this new level of freedom. And I was searching for these, I had clients and I was helping them tap into their self-connection, into their spirituality, helping them with mindset work, helping them transform their bodies. And I had hired a coach during this time, and she taught me a fascia-based movement system that changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. I was able to finally release some of these things that were in my connective tissue, these deeply rooted traumas, traumatic things that were creating these cycles, these patterns over and over and over in my life. And when I experienced that life-changing shift, I decided to become certified in that movement system. And it became this modality in my coaching that was like this missing piece.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was a few years ago. And so that brings me to what I do now. And at this point in my life, I'm a coach, a speaker, a guide. And I teach people essentially magnetism, how to unlock this part of themselves to have authority, to have influence, to learn how to speak about what they do and how they do it. And to the essence of it is how to shift a room, how to command respect and to be seen and heard, and to truly be influential in their work and in the world. And that is, you mentioned that I went to Greece.
Yes.
So one of my clients actually hosted this. She has Greek roots. Her father's from Greece, and I've been coaching her for about a year and a half. And her father passed away, and she went to Greece last year in the fall, and decided that she wanted to hold a retreat there. She felt called to do that, and she asked me to help her get there, essentially to build the container, to bring in the clients, and then she also brought me there as a co-facilitator. And so being in Greece, I literally just got back 4 days ago. It was this unbelievable, significant experience, because here I am in this stunning, profoundly beautiful place, reflecting to me my growth, and also just this journey with my client, and where she started to where we were standing together side by side. It was just a really profound moment for me to see my healing journey, to see her journey she left her 9 to 5 job. It was during the time that we worked together, and she's a very gifted photographer, and she stepped into coaching and mentorship. And so just to see the evolution of myself, and to see that reflected to me in her, and to be able to hold space for these 6 women that flew out to Greece with us. It was a 7-day, just absolutely life transformational retreat. And there was 3 of us as facilitators, 6 women that came as attendees, and we all experienced such a deep transformation, all of us together.
There's something about the light in Greece, and there's also something about the Mediterranean that I haven't experienced any other place in the world. There's just that the combination of the blue of the water, it's, salt water, so you have that beautiful healing that comes along with that. But there's something about the light, and I have very fond memories of the different trips that, as a family, as a child, that we would take visiting dear friends of ours in Greece. I was just so excited to hear that you would be going and doing this retreat there. I mean, what an incredible place to be able to go and be on the island and do all the different things. So remarkable.
I traveled the world with WWE. I've been to 6 continents, but I've never been to Greece. And also, when I was traveling with WWE, I was, like I said, stressed out all the time.
You were in the room or you were on the stage. There was
Yeah.
playtime.
Yeah. And you would really, you would perform in one city, and then you would take a shower at the arena, and then get on the bus, and then get on the plane, and be at the next hotel or the next arena.
Yes.
And I saw the world, but I didn't really see it.
Right. Your passport has all the stamps, but your heart doesn't.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really great way to say it. And so I was just so excited to go on this trip. Number one, because of what it represented to me in my career, but also just in my heart and my own evolution as a person, and to understand what it feels like to be in my body, to truly be experiencing just the beauty and the powerful energy of you mentioned the water there. It's like a hug.
It's like being in the womb. There's just something that just so comes around you in such a healthy, beautiful way, and that it holds you. It allows you to be seen and to be heard and to be felt.
Yes.
In my experience.
Yeah. So, I got back on Friday, I had a really grueling, I had a very, very grueling travel on the way home. And any experience like this, in my own experience, the way home is always harder. You're tired, you're ready to get home. And then I ended up having, I ended up being in Turkey for like 19 hours. So I went from Corfu to Athens, explored Athens for a day, which I was so excited to do. And so I was gone for 16 days, Corfu for 14 days, then Athens. And then I had a connection in Istanbul, and I ended up getting delayed. It was a long connection, and I got delayed. And then the flight home. So I was so tired. And when I got home, I was so happy to sleep in my own bed. And then I knew that, or I had felt like, my camera's here we go. I had felt like it was going to be a massive integration coming back, just because of the expansiveness of the experience. And I was, and I am currently relating it to something as significant as like a plant medicine experience. You
Mhm.
know, when you have a plant medicine experience, regardless of it's psychedelic or non-psychedelic, it
Right.
opens up something within you and it shows you
Definitely.
something greater, you
Yeah.
know, and then when the experience is over, you go back into your normal waking state of consciousness. And
Yes.
then that's where your work begins, right? Like you've seen something,
Yes.
you've felt something greater than what you normally experience. And so when you come back to normal, and for me, that was coming back to my everyday routine, coming back to my home, it's it's in that space that you figure out how to integrate the experiences
Mhm.
that you've had into your life to create more expansion, to create more abundance or
Yeah.
more ease in your life.
Yeah.
And so I feel very blessed to have that experience, and then kind of this realization of, you know, take it slow, allow these insights and these
Yes.
you know, these downloads and these things to come through in their own time.
Yes.
And then to have my birthday and to have like a very, I just had a really amazing grounding nature experience, to feel, to allow myself to completely unplug and just to really let my body catch up to everything that has happened in this really expansive experience. And I feel really excited um, to bring all of this wisdom and knowledge into my work, into my coaching containers, into um, I feel like I'm having another big identity shift. This time it's just not as chaotic as they have been in the past.
Right. It doesn't come with all of the endings and now what do I do and who am I? Because you have that part. And it comes with the I know who I am. I have had all these experiences in these different places on stages, speaking in different places. And how do I now take this huge, expansive experience and have what I'm doing be even deeper and wider?
Mhm. Yeah. And I think a big part of, you know, I mentioned learning that the movement system and
Right.
then becoming a certified teacher in it, and
Yeah.
then it becoming this kind of what I felt was like a missing piece in my coaching and my philosophy. It helped me, it opened my mind and it helped me create what I call, this is my methodology, a body alchemy, the body alchemy method. And so it started as a methodology to help my clients actually get results, right? It's like that
Mhm.
somatic piece, that actual integration piece.
Yeah.
But now I find myself really just embodying body alchemy as a philosophy, as a way of seeing the world, as a way of moving through the
I like that.
world.
I like
And
that.
that was the missing piece for me in all of these other big identity shifts in my past.
Mm.
Like I didn't know how to alchemize the fear and all, you know, all of the emotions that come up when your life is shifting a lot, when big things are happening. And so now I have this level of mastery within myself and this connection to my body and understanding that chaotic emotions are sometimes just a part of the process. And they don't have to lead to panic attacks, and they don't have to lead to numbing myself, and they don't have to lead to this massive destructive path in my life. It's actually part of the alchemy process. And so it helps me feel really grounded in these big transformational periods of my life. Like I said, it was, I feel like I'm going through this big identity shift right now. It's funny, before I went to Greece, one of my favorite tarot readers on Instagram,
Mhm.
his name is John. He had made a post. I've been following him for years, and I go to his daily readings, and they're just really powerful and they're really accurate, and they're kind of like a daily guide. And he had made a post about essentially like not posting as much because he was going to have to take a step back from his tarot business to get a regular job, a real job. And I had reached out to him and I said, "Hey, as a thank you, I'd love to get on a call with you. And I feel like I have some insight to share with you that would help you thrive more in your business." And so we did that, and we had a great call. And as a thank you, he said, "Hey, I'd love to return the favor. I'd love to give you a reading." And so I had reached out to him to finally have the reading after I got back from Greece. And so I had the reading yesterday, and it was all about this big shift in my career, essentially returning to the stage. And so, you know, when you have those moments of, all of these things happen over years through your life, and none of it really makes sense until this one moment. And then you can look back and you understand, and you're so grateful for the way that everything happened, the way everything unraveled, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And so I had one of those major moments yesterday during that reading with him, and I felt like it was such a synchronistic connection with him, that had been created years ago when I first started following him, and I just felt very blessed to have this confirmation in the reading yesterday, and then even to be coming on your show and to have the opportunity to be on this platform, and to share my story and a little bit about my philosophy. It just all fair. It feels so aligned and synchronistic, and like a confirmation, to keep moving forward in my life and in my career pursuits and the things that I truly believe in. So yeah, it feels like it's just all blended together really, really beautifully.
Celeste, when we had chosen today to be the day that we would have this conversation, you had said, "I'm so glad it's going to be after Greece. I'm glad it's going to be after these experiences because I sense that something really big and good is on its way." And as you talk about doing the body work and with the fascia and learning to lengthen and strengthen in different ways, um, I just keep seeing this, that you are in your work also, in your business also, lengthening and strengthening the fascia of that, right? If everything is an organism, or if everything has energy and everything is somehow held, and the fascia is the thing that holds, then it just feels like, from where I'm sitting today, that the experiences that you've had up to this point are about this expansion in your business, this expansion in the fascia of your business.
Wow. Yeah. I give me a little chill. Absolutely. And it's true. It's true. And sometimes it's just harder to see for yourself in your own life
So true.
it's like,
So true, girl.
when
Yes.
you
Preach
when
it.
you work when you work with people, right? It's so easy to say, here, go this way,
Yeah.
take this step,
Right.
and it's just harder when it's yourself. But something that I teach to all of my clients is that your body is literally the metaphor. The work that you do within your body will play out in your business. It will play out in your relationships. It will play out in every area of your life because your body is the metaphor. So for you to say that is profound, and it's true. And it's about fluidity, right? The more fluidity you create in your body, the more freedom and space you create internally, the more fluidity, freedom, and space you create in your business, in your career, in the way that you move through the world, physically and metaphorically, and the way that you interact and move through relationships. Your body is always the metaphor. And when I look back at the way that my body felt when I was wrestling, I was always in pain. And a big reason that I had wanted to learn this movement system from my coach in the first place, Leela, but that's how we met.
Exactly. Yes.
I had originally hired Leela to help me learn to speak.
Oh,
And I had experience on a microphone, but never with my own message,
right.
never with my philosophy, my true message for the world. And then the more that I worked with her, I started, expanding myself and wanting more, and wanting to learn how to grow more. And so she taught me the movement system. And the main reason I want to do it is because I was in chronic pain.
Right.
My lower back was chronically tight, my neck, to the point where my grandmother was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when she was in her 30s, and it's a diagnosis to explain dysfunction in your body. And so I started to think, well, maybe I have something like that, because I was just so consistently in pain. And it wasn't really from the ring. It wasn't from the wrestling, because professional wrestling is such an art form. You
Right.
are taught to
Yes.
protect your body, your
Yes.
partner's body,
Yes.
and the better you are in the ring, the lighter your touch is. So,
Right.
and yeah, I got beat up a few times in the ring. It just, it's inevitable. But the pain that I had in my body was from stress and anxiety and cortisol, and just all the dysfunction in my emotions, and the things that I believed and influenced my mindset. Um, And so my body, the way that my body felt, and I can look back 10 years ago, or, to some of my first matches, and even the matches I had towards the end of my career, even though I had more confidence in the ring, the way I held my body was the way I can read a body now. And the way I can see a body now was I had such a deep lack of confidence in myself.
Yeah.
You know,
Tail was tucked. I'm just guessing this. I haven't looked at your things, but I'm guessing that the tail was tucked, the way that you walked your feet, the way that your shoulders moved forward. Even though you were standing tall and being seen. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And even to the point where, like, I really, in a sport, you want to watch your film back so you
Right.
can get better. I had such a difficult time watching myself back on camera because I hated the way that I moved. I
Mm.
hated the way that I held my body, and I didn't know how to hold my body any differently. I didn't have that connection of the way that you hold your body, influences the way you move through your life. It influences the way people perceive you. It influences, the fluidity that you can have in your life. And so just to think back at how my body felt and looked, and how I held my body as a consistent pattern and compensation, um, no wonder I had so many difficulties and so many challenges in my my marriages and in my career. Have this history and my past. It makes sense to me now because I'm this. Uh, I see myself as this an alchemist. I've always been an alchemist. I just didn't know how to harness it then. But so I was building, 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 and then it would burn down.
Right.
But it would just be chaos. And so now I see that as this really beautiful power of alchemy and birth and death and rebirth. And it just makes so much sense now. But the way that I feel in my body now on a daily basis is night and day. It's night and day. The way that I can breathe into my belly, and just even noticing myself in a candid picture, where in the past I would just be like, oh, I don't want to see it because I didn't like the way I was holding my shoulders or my head down, or tail tucked. And now I see it and I'm just like, oh, it's just like I embody this philosophy, this belief, this freedom and space internally, and you can just see it in the way that I hold my body now. And so, I speak a lot about my work on Instagram. It's a big platform for me, and this is one of the primary things that I talk about because I think to me now it's so obvious, but to so many people it's not obvious that the way that we consistently hold our bodies creates the same cycles and patterns, the non-serving stuff especially, over and over and over and over again. And I think that, well, this is what I know. When you see that pattern and when you make that connection that the body really is the metaphor, everything changes. Everything changes. Even if it's just a slight shift in, if someone just watches my content or they're a follower, and especially if they follow me from my wrestling days and they've witnessed my transformation. I do have a lot of wrestling fans are very loyal, and a lot of them have evolved with me.
Very loyal.
But if they can take one thing away, and it's like, to have their eyes on the horizon as they're walking through the world versus looking down at the ground, and they can make that shift and notice the changes that happen, in their throat and just in their posture and the way that they feel and the confidence that they have. It's such a massive win, because when you take one tiny step and you have a realization or something clicks for you, then it leads to another door. And that door leads to another door, and that door leads to another door. And so that really is my number one goal, is because I have experienced such freedom from this journey. And I went from suffering a lot of suffering. And I believe that there's no way that I went through that, like, when being in the spotlight and experiencing the things that I went through and the pain in my relationships, there's no way that I went through that for no reason, right? Like, it is to and I believe this about everyone, any experience where we suffer, it's meant to be transformed and alchemized into something that can help the next person that is experiencing a similar energy or a similar struggle in their life. And I mentioned earlier on in the interview that I was struggling for a long time to find purpose. And that feels so purposeful to know, like going through these things. And the alchemization of the process is really for others to not have to suffer as long or as intensely, and to have something that can help them create more freedom from the inside, and then to experience those reflections in their outer world.
I was recently asked to write a chapter in a book, and in doing so, it was about something that I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment about. But it's a story of transformation. So I send it off to the person, Gary Barnes, who's going to be putting this whole anthology together. And I'm like, please don't accept it. I'm being obedient, spiritually obedient, get this out and put it on paper, but, please say no. And he says, this is exactly what we're looking for. And so for me, the process of working with his editor, Cher Devon, and the questions that she began to ask allowed me to go back into that experience years ago and to be able to open up and to be able to go, oh, it's just a story. This happened so that I can be sharing with other people that if you go through this, you too can be okay on the other side of it. And had I not gone through that experience, I wouldn't have had my ears so open when Leela talked about, hey, I offer this class that helps you move in your body. And when she offered to introduce me to Elle, I wouldn't have listened, right? And those experiences have radically changed my life. But then for the book to come out, Overcoming You, stories of struggle, strength, and success, and to have it go to #1 the weekend that it came out, that was just, for me, was a little bit more the icing on the top of that's great. The piece for me was working with the editor and being able to say, yeah, this is my story. This kid attacked me in the classroom and I'm okay. And you too can be okay when really awful things happen in your life. And so I really appreciate what you're sharing here about that space of seeing that all of this can be alchemized. I so agree with you. That's why I'm sharing that part of the story. I so agree with you that everything, if we allow it, if I want to continue to live in shame and continue to bear down on it, I have the right to do that, I have the agency to do that. It wasn't serving me. It was not serving my relationships. And it was not serving my mental health either. And so that space of being able to say, yep, this happened. But to have an editor, somebody say, okay, take these parts of the story, and just was super clear. And that's one of the things I think about working with somebody who is so clear in what they do, like you. You are so clear in what you are saying and how you say it. That makes such a difference for somebody who's willing, who sees that they have agency and who is willing to do the work. They are tired of suffering and they're looking for something different. And so remarkable. So I would love for you to share, why the red dresses? What was that about in Greece? Because the pictures are phenomenal. And obviously you guys thought about this before you packed.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So my client, Augustina, she's the one that has the Greek roots. She was the main host of the retreat. She brought me, and then one of her very close friends, who is also a facilitator. She works very closely with plant allies and plant ceremonies. And so Jen, her name is Jen, and she was the other facilitator. And it was Jen's idea. So Augustina had wanted to have a goddess dinner as our closing dinner to connect with the goddesses of the land there. And then Jen brought this idea of, like, let's do red. We wanted something just vibrant and powerful and beautiful. And so 6 months out from the experience, we started the container, and we started having, Jen, myself, and Augustina would alternate through the months of who would lead a workshop each month to start to prepare, to create the vision for each attendee and to start to prepare them for the experience. So while they were in Greece would actually be the real transformation, because they did all of this work leading up to it. And the energy was so palpable on that last night, and just to see Everyone looked so beautiful and stunning, and everyone was really glowing. Everyone was glowing, and every single person had their own moment of their own personal struggle in their own right during the experience, and including us as facilitators.
Right.
We all grew very much as guides and facilitators in the process. Here we are trying to host an experience on a foreign land.
Right.
And most of these women we didn't know in person. One of them was one of my clients that I work with regularly, but I didn't know any of the other women. So there was a lot of things that happened that weren't planned. And so when you plan a 7-day experience in another country, you want everything to go as planned. And so there was just a lot of growth for everyone. And on that last night, we had this 7-day experience. We had done so many amazing things together. And again, like everyone had kind of overcome something in their own right, and had mended connections with each other. And that night it was palpable. Everyone was glowing. Everyone had experienced this. You could visually see the transformation. Just everyone was just like they had. And this is something that I say to anybody that I work with, whether I'm teaching them the movement system or something within their business to help them have more visibility. Something that I say is, I'm not teaching you something new. I'm helping you remember something. I'm helping you access a wisdom in your body, and I'm helping you access your body's intelligence. And that's what I saw playing out. We had all accessed this deeper part of ourselves, and it was literally coming through, and our skin was glowing. And here we are wearing these beautiful red dresses that were all different cuts and styles, and to everyone's different personality. And then to have everyone feel so confident in the way that they were posing, and the way that they were holding themselves and carrying themselves. It was just like this perfect closing moment for the experience. And I don't really know the origin of why red, but I know it was Jen's idea, and we were just on board with it. And it ended up being the color was so bold and so
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
So perfect.
Yes. And I didn't own anything red. We all pretty much everybody bought a dress for it. And I was just like, I never wear red. And then now I'm just like, I need to get some more red stuff just because the energy of the color. I'm like, I need to wear this more.
Yes. That's so good. Celeste, are there things that you'd like to reiterate just for our audience to walk away with and really hold tightly?
Sure. I will say, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you feel like you are just stepping into a spiritual journey or awakening the light within yourself, no matter where you are in your journey, there's always something that you can do in every moment to continue to open your body to experience more, to be more present, to be more connected to others, to be more connected to yourself, to be more connected to divinity, to be more connected to nature. And most often that shift in any moment is coming back to your body and bringing your awareness back to your body. So even if it's practicing moving your belly button away from your spine to relax your belly, or bringing your awareness all the way down into your toes, or relaxing your pelvic floor, even such a tiny shift in any moment can bring you so much closer to the joy and the beauty and the expansiveness that's always here in every moment around us. And everyone's journey is different. Everyone's journey of awakening to the light within themselves is different. But when you are able to come back to that wisdom, again, you're not learning the wisdom, you're accessing it in every moment. When you're able to access that, you start to hear and know and understand the next step for you and your story and your journey and your specific path. And so there's a deep trust that starts to happen when you come more into your body. You release, you let go, you breathe, you relax, you create space in your body. That next step is available within you already. And that is the most significant thing that I can express to anyone, regardless of where you are in your journey, regardless. And again, everyone's journey is different, so very unique and so different, but you have the wisdom inside of you to guide you to that next door, to that next step, to that next move that's going to get you closer and closer to that vision of your dream, your desires, like everything that you want in your life. It's already within you.
Celeste, that was so beautifully said. Thank you so much for saying yes to come on Simply Sarah and to share your wisdom. I have loved this conversation. It's just been like a warm blanket on a winter day. Thank you so much.
It's like the water in Corfu, the water in Greece.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Thank you
Beautiful.
so much, Sarah, for having me on. I've had a wonderful, beautiful time, and I've enjoyed myself so much. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. And to our audience, we say thank you for being here, for listening to the end, for allowing these words to shape something new inside of you, to allow things to open differently, to be able to move through things in a different way. So glad that you are here and just so grateful for you. So until next time, take really good care of you. Blessings.